everybody. Welcome to Potato Shop Podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Iron Dutch Murdoch.
Yeah, I think the big thing to talk about today is, I know we had the UFC card this week, but that's not, I think the bigger thing, something big has come out, and that is WarnerMedia has been, will be merging with Discovery, and at that point, DC Comics is up in the air. And what will happen with like the Snyder film, Snyderverse, and all that stuff.
You know, we've talked about it a bunch of times, and I don't feel good with when I look at the future for DC Comics, its movie properties, its comic books. I cannot sit here and tell you that I feel good about its sustained future. The comic book industry as a whole, I think, is struggling. You know, you flash back to the 90s when Image Comics first started. You know, those guys were treated like rock stars. They were setting massive records with, you know, their releases. And, you know, we went through a time, I remember, where, you know, you had all these variant covers. And it didn't matter if it was Image or DC or Marvel. It was all these variant covers. And but, you know, now, I think realistically, probably your biggest market of comic book collectors are people in their 30s and 40s.
Right.
I don't know that you see kids out here collecting comic books like they did back when we were kids, because the availability of comic books sucks. You can't go to, you know, if we walked into our neighborhood 7-Eleven, I would probably be challenged to try to find comic books. You know, you go to Barnes and Noble, you can find the graphic novels, but you know, if you're a 5-6-year-old kid that's wanting to read Spider-Man, you know, good luck finding a comic shop.
Well, also, when it comes to a graphic novel, that's even more of an older individual, because let's be honest, when you were a kid, are you going to sit down and go, all right, Secret Wars is a 12-part issue, but I'm going to just wait 5 months so it can come out to the local bookstore so I can get them all in one collection and not have to be hunting and pecking for the newest issue to Secret Wars.
Right. You know, and the other thing too, you know, DC has absolutely been awful with its movie and television streaming, well, their universe there, because you know, they make all of these movies that are not within canon. So, like, for example, The Joker, which was a very good movie, this upcoming Batman movie. You know, none of these movies are in canon. These are all outside of the DC universe. And, you know, it's very frustrating, because it's like, and then you even take it one step further, and, you know, Crisis on Infinite Earths, instead of being something that they work towards as a big, you know, like Endgame kind of theatrical release, combining all your movies and bringing all your heroes together. No. You know, they did it as a television event. And, you know, of course, that's how they explain there being two different Flash existing in the DC universe. You know, the movie Flash and the TV Flash. But, you know, Marvel is not doing all of these, this isn't in canon. You know, I realize with the Spider-Man franchise and Venom and whatnot, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of, you know, there's been talk about that, but by and large, their primary... Look, at the end of the day, man, Venom sucked, okay? And Venom 2 is going to suck. And when Venom finally does fall back under the Marvel Universe, they're going to recast him, and they're going to fucking do him different. You know, the X-Men property was good. They had some hit or miss there with theirs, but by and large, I think that the X-Men universe was done very well. Fantastic Four sucked. And, you know, the Spider-Man movies have been good. But even Spider-Man has been absorbed into the Marvel Universe. And, I think you're going to. I think you're going to see once Venom gets everything kind of done. They're going to absorb him too. But I don't know. I don't know that the future for DC looks very good. My fear is that you're going to have, as we've said before, you're going to have Marvel purchase DC from Discovery, or at least the comic book side of things. It won't be an all or nothing kind of deal. It'll be we're going to buy their print series, and then they're going to come in and they're going to be treated like the redheaded stepchildren.
Now, the article that we're reading from is on the HollywoodReporter.com, and it says how DC has weathered corporate change before. Well, when it comes just to the print side, I've heard everything, and I saw another article they were talking about dropping the print comics down to just 25 issues a month. Then when it comes to the movie side, it's stuff that had already been produced or already being filmed or stuff like that. I guess like with Suicide Squad or maybe a Batman, that'll get released. It's the stuff that is up in the air that hasn't been talked about. So or that was just in the pipeline. That could be squashed by whoever comes in from Discovery, because the individual who,
and if I'm not mistaken, HBO Max is part of the package with DC,
right.
Correct?
And see, the guy who ran HBO Max, from what I understand, was the big supporter of Zack Snyder.
Okay.
And they're upset because they're thinking that HBO Max should be doing better than what it is. And that's one, I think he's getting removed. He's already put in his paperwork to leave. And they said he was really excited about being in the company. He would talk to people. He would introduce himself to everybody, know what sets, what was filmed here, what was done here. He seemed like he really wanted to go, but I guess with the HBO Max not doing as well as they wanted it, I don't know what they were expecting. I don't know the numbers. But
I guess their theory was if they're releasing all of these movies straight to HBO Max, that should have drove the numbers through the ceiling. But I would make the argument, look how many streaming services you're competing against.
Well, correct. You've got so many streaming services now. Even Netflix has taken. They said here, I just read an article, and they said people are letting go of their Netflix account because there's nothing new coming out that they wanted to watch on Netflix. So in turn, what's going to be is people aren't going to sign up for the year. I think they'll sign up for a month. After everything's come out, they'll binge watch it, and then they'll just let it go and go over to Netflix, watch whatever they want to watch. Then they just I think they could jump around like that.
I think, and I could be wrong here, this is me speculating, but I don't think you see Netflix in 20 years. The reason I say that is because Netflix is a independent contractor, if you will. In other words, with the exception of the stuff that they're creating on their own, and I know Netflix is in high, they're signing big movie deals, and they're working hard to create original content, but there's a lot of stuff that that they have to negotiate as a third party to show on their channel, and as the competition to get subscribers continues to grow, I could see Netflix saying, you know what, they would entertain an offer to be bought out.
Right. I could see that happening.
And say you take...
Well, you got to figure Disney, before Disney streaming came along, they were in negotiations with Netflix to purchase Netflix.
Correct.
And I remember thinking, boy, if Disney buys them, how massive that's going to be.
Right. And then Disney could utilize that platform. So you're absolutely right, because listen, Disney's not just all family-oriented stuff. They do have outside ventures. Was it New Line Cinema that Disney owned? Where they stuff that wouldn't fit in,
Miramax.
Yeah, stuff that wouldn't fit into the Disney brand, if you will. That was their outlet to be able to produce and provide outside of the Disney package, if you will.
Right, and then Miramax was like at independent side.
Yeah,
for like Kevin Smith.
So you take a group like Disney. Disney's going to hold on, but then they can feed content to Netflix as well. You know what I'm saying? And Disney can. Anyways, I think Netflix has done a very good job, and they have truly changed the face of streaming. But I don't know that Netflix as an independent, because again, you've got Amazon out here right now that's toying with the idea of buying MGM for its.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't see Netflix. I could see Netflix for its survival. I could see them merging with another streaming service.
Right.
I could see that happening because eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have, because let's say you got Amazon Prime, you got Disney Plus, you got Discovery Plus, you got AMC Plus, you got
NBC,
you got Peacock, you got you got Hulu, you got HBO Max, and some of these streaming services are offered through your cellular company. They put that, if you sign up, say, with AT&T, they'll give you HBO Max for the year, free for the year. And that's all fine and dandy, but eventually it's going to reach a point where there's going to be so many streaming services out here. It's kind of like the talk shows back in the 90s. Everybody and their brother was getting a talk show back in the 90s.
Well,
eventually the bubble's going to pop.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you look at wrestling, for instance, WWE's got their own thing, network. I know it's on Peacock now, but they had their own thing. Then you have Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact Wrestling. At least with NWA, they just signed a contract where they just put their content on Fight TV. They're not really trying to make their own streaming service per se.
Right.
But going back real quick just to DC, and we'll wind it up, I guess. But since everybody who was in charge of HBO Max, that guy, he was supporter of Zack Snyder. I guess the Snyderverse is once again in the toilet. Who knows what's going to happen with anything going on? Sadly, I think you're probably right, because there was talk about it months ago, and I think we talked about it. Marvel will come in to Discover, because I can't remember how much. It didn't say how much it was. This merger was going to be, but they're going to look at it, because I'll put money on it. The suits don't know what the hell they're looking at, and they're going to cut it. Hey, and you know who else that's going to be is you've just got AEW. Now, granted, they've got 5 years in, or they just signed that new deal, so they probably got 4 years left. But professional wrestling, no matter how much numbers it can pull in, or it used to pull in, it's not like it used to be, where you'd be silly to cut it and they cut WCW. Now, you get the right person come in, they're going to look at TNT and be like, no, we don't want that there. We want, another single life, 90-day fiance in that time slot.
Right. Well, I will say this. I think in reference to like the AEW, one thing the AEW has is they have Tony Khan, and they actually put together a good product. If the suits were to try to cut them, I think they would land on their feet. I think they would find another network.
The thing at Tony Khan, you're right. Tony Khan is probably their ace in the hole, because where he's got relationships through the NFL.
Yes.
His Premier League, his soccer league. So he's going to probably know executives where he's like, hey, we'll give you this and we'll give you that, or he could help them as much as they can help him. So, all right, so you said it just a minute ago. Another merger that's reportedly in talks is Amazon to buy MGM as the streaming wars intensify. This comes from CNN's Business. And now this one says if this goes through, it's going, let's say it'll get of course, a ton of classic films, James Bond series. It could be the value between $7 billion and $10 billion, according to the information which cited a person familiar with the situation. Mm-hmm. And of course, no one's making any comment. But all I can say is I hope it don't. I used to be a big guy that would be like, man, I remember when AOL merged with Time Warner, and I said, you got TNT, you got the Turner thing, you got Time Warner, AOL, which was the big internet provider. This is going to be massive. They're going to be able to have, make whatever they want, and they've completely fumbled the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And what you will have is with a lot of these mergers, things that should be getting produced will get stopped at the desk of a suit. Because look, we'll talk about it later too. I don't know if you've watched Nick Gage for Dark Side of the Ring.
No, not yet.
Okay, well we won't go too deep into it, but there's always that's a hardcore wrestling, extreme hardcore wrestling. If it came to my desk, I would stop it immediately. I would have no interest in even producing. But there's this small little segment that wants to watch it. Why, I don't know. But that be it here or there. What's going to happen is that when mergers take place, you're going to have this story come along. Someone's going to say, I don't like it. I don't understand it. Right. And it dies right there at the desk.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they'll be able to block things. They'll be able to, so it's going to be harder and harder to get things produced, get things put on television, because when you have like for instance, the cable networks, you have Cox, Comcast, Time. I think it's Time Warner has cable, but they all work together. So when an individual like Glenn Beck said, "Hey, I want to start the Blaze News channel," well, see, he's not part of the group here.
Right.
He's an independent guy. He's not allowed onto the television station.
Right.
And so in turn, he might get one thing with Dish TV, but he's on channel 1,329.
Right. Good luck finding him.
Yeah, you would never even know about it. So, no, this on one hand, I get having you need the content if you're going to have these streaming services. But
and I'll tell you something else too. Doesn't Disney own Hulu?
Yes.
Because I know Hulu is part of, you can do Disney Plus subscription and depending on the package you select, you can get Hulu and ESPN as part of their package. So Hulu provides a lot of content. So I don't know that Netflix would be a good fit for Disney, although Disney would probably be happy to take Stranger Things and some of their original content stuff that they do.
Well, once again, they're going to want the content.
Right.
They're going to want all that content that Netflix has already produced.
Sure. Well, that would be the only advantage to doing it.
It says right here that Amazon currently, no specific, but right now there's about 200 million paid subscribers.
Wow.
To Prime Video. Now, how many of that never even watched a video?
Right.
Because a lot of times people sign up to Prime to get the free shipping.
Sure. Well, Prime Video, so what sucks about that is you go on to Amazon Prime to watch, and not everything on there is accessible. It's a mixed bag of what you run into, because there's some stuff that's free to you, and then there's some stuff that, you still have to pay to watch it. And, so it's not like your traditional streaming services, with HBO Max. When I go on HBO Max or Disney Plus or Hulu or any of those, now I know Disney does the releases where you pay for exclusive, like with Milan and those that that you pay outright to watch the movie for X amount of days. I know they'll do things like that, but by and large, you go on one of those services, if it's on there, it's available to watch. That's not the case with Amazon Prime. So I can see Amazon Prime being frustrating for people, because it's like you search a movie, it pops up, but then it's like, oh, but it's available for rent. It's not on the service.
Right.
So
it says that Amazon is also a corporate behemoth with a market cap of nearly $1.7 trillion. Buying MGM would cost it little more than it earned in net income in the first quarter of 2021.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon is a giant,
Oh yeah.
and like I said, it's probably going to go through because I think anyone that wants to stop mergers or anything to that nature, or will be paid off.
Oh
And
yeah.
I mean, it's just going to get shut through. And but once again, like I said, I'm really more concerned with the quality of content. I'd almost prefer to see them do something where they just sign an agreement where they get to use their content on their service and not just outright bound.
Yeah. Well, who knows, man. Like I said, I think that as we go along here, um, streaming services obviously are having a huge impact on the cable companies. And I'll be curious. I mean, obviously, I realize not everybody is switching over to streaming services just yet, but I have to imagine that's few and far between anymore. Because the thing about it is, if I truly wanted to get local, if I want to get cable
Right.
back, I've got other options besides Cox. I could pay for YouTube TV, which I've had and I really enjoyed. It was good. I could pay for Hulu TV.
Mm-hmm.
I've got those two right there that I could choose to purchase without having to sign up for Cox. And I mean, so there's choices out here. The big thing now is internet providers. That's where the industry is. As far as like for people like Cox and Comcast and whatnot. I mean, you can't sit here and tell me that they've got thriving cable subscribers. More and more people are cutting the cord every fucking day.
Right. But like I said, I've read before, cable companies prefer you to cut the cord because you're going to have to get your internet through someone, and then they're
Right.
the someone.
Right, exactly.
So it's not like you're hurting them by doing that, and then you'll pay for the higher stream so you can stream more people or faster downloads and things of that nature for gaming and whatever.
But it's kind of like, I would imagine there's got to be those suits that are kind of like WWE. It's like WWE, instead of saying, hey, you know what, we're going to put all of our pay-per-views on the network. I mean, they're still offering idiots to fucking pay $60 for a WWE pay-per-view. And the fact that there's people out here still doing it fucking kills me.
Well, but the thing is, the reason that they do it is because there's some places that don't get good internet. So in turn, cable is, if you want to watch a good screen, a stream of it, go through traditional pay-per-view.
Oh yeah. Well.
That's why it's still offered. But like them same folks said, the guys in WWE, one guy got fired. He was saying, hey, let's have the 4 big shows be traditional pay-per-views, and we're going to use the other ones will be network exclusives. And then, of course, they said, no, we got to put everything. So, in turn, they lost a lot of money by putting WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam free to the network.
Oh.
So, in turn, that one guy got fired because they said they had a big blowout when they first made it. And so but I mean, obviously, WWE's doing very well. They've signed these massive billion-dollar deals. But I just can't see them doing it again. There's no way, if they're not pulling in 2 million people on a Monday night, which used to be 4 million people easy just 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now we're struggling to get if they could get 2 million, they'd be happy. But like last week, they said it went up a little bit and it went to, I think, 1.8 million. And back in the day when Vince Russo took over, which was, 95, 96 time frame, WWE Monday Night Raw was running at, almost hitting 3s. And McMahon flipped it and said, we got to switch everything. And on this one, he's just, asleep at the wheel.
Well.
But, let me just say this. I do predict WWE gets sold, too.
I think that's coming.
That's sooner than later.
I think the day's coming when you're going to see fundamentally a change in the guard.
I expect NBC, because there was talk of Amazon buying them.
Yeah.
I expect, because they're putting everything in the ABC or the NBC mark, I predict that NBC will pick up.
I guess what worries me about that is we could sit here and talk about everything that WWE has done that hurt pro wrestling. And we could also sit and talk about everything that WWE's done that, from a business standpoint is amazing. I mean, Vince McMahon is a businessman, The problem, though, is that, like you said, when you start having... McMahon cares about wrestling, or at least the WWE. I don't know that if it's sold, that the suits that start to manage it will share the same passion. It will become a matter of, shit can it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you'll see it turn into not having a vision. People are just going to get in there just because they want to get their foot into the door, because they're wanting to get higher up into the whatever the corporation.
I'll be honest with you. I've kind of believed in my heart that the only way you see wrestling kind of return in the fashion of, we've talked before about, the territories and stuff like that. And you're kind of seeing that now, like with AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact Wrestling, NWA. I mean, you've got all these different hubs, if you will. But if you truly want to see the slate wiped clean and those promotions truly have a chance to flourish and truly see competition come back within pro wrestling, WWE has to die. Because right now, none of those guys can compete with WWE. Because, and I say that because I know that AEW has Tony Khan, but WWE puts their fucking NXT, which is not even their flagship shows, against AEW, and it pulls damn near the same numbers as AEW.
Right.
So if AEW went head to head with Raw or even SmackDown, they get trounced.
AEW?
Yeah.
I don't think they get trounced. I think if you put AEW against Monday Night Raw, I think it would hold its own. I'm not saying they would win, but it would take them some time. But I wouldn't want to see it. I think it would be a stupid move. Let's just say
you can't recreate the Monday Night Wars.
No, and they tried to do it with Impact, and that was silly.
That was absolutely retarded. Because they didn't have the numbers to support going in there against WWE.
For what it was worth, now looking back, Impact was doing 2 million views, 2 million viewers every Thursday night.
Yeah. Back
before Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff showed up.
Yeah.
And now there was a couple things that I thought Bischoff regime, I don't even want to say Hogan. I think it was more of a Bischoff thing. I thought he made it look a little cleaner. There was a couple things he did to make it look cleaner. But even now, I still call it TNA. It's hard to say Impact. And I mean, that's been dead now for 10 years. But they brought back the Impact TNA championship to hold with the Impact Wrestling Championship, which makes no sense. But be it here or there, no one's setting the world on fire with wrestling. I think NWA is still my favorite. I watched it just this morning, and it's an excellent show. It's 1 hour. You're in, you're out, and they're just doing it old school style. But who knows? Hopefully they get more fans into the arena. That's the one thing that I think's hurting it right now. Is I know they've got there are people there yelling, probably the wrestlers. But what I would really like to see is the fans come back so they can pan to the fans, because it's always better to see fans. You see that with UFC, and you'll see it with professional wrestling, anything.
Yeah.
If you got fans there, you get a better quality from the guys or gals working.
Yeah.
So I guess a final thing, we had 2 wrestlers pass away. Don Cornudle.
Yep.
I know a lot. I remember him from teaming with Ivan Koloff.
Well, I remember Don Cornudle when he was
Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter,
yes.
And they were taking on Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. And I also remember vividly watching them wrestle the Briscoe brothers here in Roanoke, man. And boy, I mean, Don Cornudle was a staple of the NWA, Crockett Cup, Mid-Atlantic, A lot of great memories, especially. I mean, that was the golden era. That was the time. If you were going to be a pro wrestler, that was the time to be a pro wrestler.
Right.
That's when you could make some jack. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
but now it was also kind of like being a salesman. Back in those days, you walk in and it was asses in the seat.
But the thing is with that, when you had to do that, you will not go out there and make your business look stupid.
No, right. That's what I'm
Because
saying.
you need people there.
That's like a salesman that works on straight commission, buddy. They're going to bring their A game every day, because if they don't, then they're not eating.
Right.
The paycheck's going to reflect it.
This past Sunday, real quick, we'll get back to Don Cornoodle, but there was one of the wrestling matches on WWE, their Backlash. They had zombies coming to the ring, and everyone was attacking them. I mean, it's silly, but you already got Bray Wyatt there doing his magic stuff. But for some reason, you would not have seen back in the day gimmicks like that done. I'm not saying you wouldn't have something silly. Promoters would put up silliness.
Oh, yeah, well, because everybody still references when RoboCop showed up to help Sting.
Yes, but you're going to have just one guy do it, and you would have that one. But be here, there. Don Cornoodle passed away. I think he was a great worker back, because I remember him as a kid.
Yeah,
and he did his job. The other person, ECW original, was New Jack. Died of a heart attack, and his best work. I know everyone remembers him from the ECW era, because he's ECW original. Was Smoky Mountain. Ricky Morton and Tracy Smothers took him under their wing, and he didn't do any of that crazy jumping off the balcony stuff that he got known for. Now, it was a really hardcore, racially charged gimmick that Jim Cornette put together, but he was so over with, well, not there. He was hated, but he was able to connect with fans.
Yeah.
As Tommy Dreamer says, if Vince McMahon could get one New Jack, no matter what he did, no matter how bad he did it, nothing, people would always rally behind him. Vince McMahon would go crazy to have someone like him. And that's the truth. And I mean, look, I don't sit here and go, oh, you remember that really good wrestling technique match that New Jack had? But for the time, for ECW, I thought he fit the gimmick.
Look, New Jack was a very controversial figure, because he, not just from the angles that he was part of, but, New Jack had a very bad reputation for hurting young talent. And, I'm sure he's not the only one that has, because they talked about, when green guys would come in, the older talent would get heavy-handed with them, just kind of. But anyways, be it here or there, though, he truly was an ECW original.
I just wish he would have stayed with more of a Smoky Mountain. And I think in the end of the day, a lot of folks from ECW wish they would have stuck with something very traditional to ECW for a Smoky Mountain, because, as we've talked before, the hardcore matches, they're hardcore, and you get very short lifespan.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're shot.
The reality is, when you look at the guys that really did the stupid stunts,
right,
and that's what they were. They were stupid stunts. You know what I'm saying? New Jack jumping off the top of a fucking arena and coming through a guy that's laying on, 4 stacked tables. Okay, yeah, I mean that's going to create a limited amount of buzz, but you're a flash in the pan, and that is not stuff that's going to make people talk about you. You know what I mean? Or long term, you can't expect to make a 30, 40-year career doing shit like that. The reason that you have guys that are able to go 30 and 40 years in that business is because they wrestle to us. I mean, it's already a hard life that you undertake anyways. When you start taking unnecessary risks like that, you're just shortening your... I mean, look at The Undertaker. And for all intent and purposes, man, The Undertaker's gimmick, from when he came to WWE, and he was a very limited wrestler as far as number of moves. I can't sit here and tell you that he was doing. I mean, I know he had some times where he went over the top rope, but that was few and far between.
Right.
And he had a number of people that were standing out there to catch him too. But even with him, Hulk Hogan was not an extreme wrestler, but all those years of doing that leg drop,
Right.
in the mat, on the ring, okay, it caught up with him.
Look at Ricky Steamboat.
Right.
I mean, his back got blown out, and he had to retire, 94, 95, I think.
I mean, you know, so even the guys that aren't doing an extreme wrestling style,
Right.
that life takes its toll. Period. End of story. Because it is a very physical life that they're undertaking. And then when you take guys, and you know, like I said, man, Cactus Jack, but when he dove off the top of that cage, he shocked the world. You know, but that lifestyle there made it to where, you know, he reported himself that he was having trouble bending over to pick his kids up.
Right.
You know, and that's no way to live.
So, all right. I guess we're at that 35-minute mark. You got anything else to say?
No.
All right. So until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Iron Dutch Murdoch.
And we'll see you later.
Hey everybody, this is Iron Dutch Murdoch. I want to thank you for listening to the Potato Shop Podcast. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, and all the other groovy places you listen to your podcast. Follow us on all our different social media, Instagram at Potato Shop Podcast, Twitter at Potato Shop PC, and then swing over to YouTube and subscribe and click the notification bell at Potato Shop PC. See ya.